The first of hopefully very many 2025 Red Sox playoff rosters is officially here. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. If you watched the video earlier today, you would know, well, hopefully more than two things, but there are two things that we're going to be reiterating on this video. The first is we're going to be live tonight right here on this channel, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be live for every single wildcard game, but we're starting tonight. I got a ton of fun things that are different from all the other streams lined up for this one, so make sure you guys are there again tonight, 6 p.m. The second thing is that I told you guys, the only reason I'm going to be making a wildcard roster video is if something ridiculous happens, if there's something unexpected that the Red Sox did. And while it isn't anything super crazy, the Red Sox did do something a bit unexpected with this wildcard roster, so we're going to break this down, and we're going to break it down in a couple of different parts, starting with the Red Sox position player roster. Now, if you'll notice, there are only two catchers on this thing. There was a little bit of a rumor that the Red Sox may be interested in carrying three catchers throughout the postseason. We've seen a couple other teams do this. The Dodgers are a key example of that, right? Will Smith not feeling super great, so they went with three catchers. Heard about the stuff with Carlos Narvaez, has been a bit better lately, right? So you sit there and you're like, okay, are they going to cover three roster spots with a catching position? The answer is no. Ali Sanchez is not on this roster. They liked the flexibility, they liked the versatility, they just didn't utilize it too much, right? And so to me, it feels like the 100% right decision for the Sox to hold this guy off the roster. But regardless, what this did was allow the Red Sox to do something a bit more interesting. However, before we get that, a quick word from today's sponsor. And of course, today's sponsor is DraftKings. And they have an absolutely fantastic offer for you right now on DraftKings. New customers who sign up using code REDSEAT and bet $5, if that bet hits, get $200 in bonus bet instantly. You can then stay in the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings single game parlays at your shot at an even bigger payout. To take advantage of this fantastic offer, all you have to do is use code REDSEAT when you're signing up. Again, fantastic offer, code REDSEAT. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. Please don't forget to gamble responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so honestly, the rest of the Red Sox playoff roster, specifically from the position player side of things, looks pretty normal, right? There's nothing incredibly crazy here name-wise. I mean, what were we expecting, right? David Hamilton take the place of Trevor Story for this wildcard game? God, no, right? Of course not. There are going to be names that are always going to be on this playoff roster. However, there are a couple things I want to point out. One, the Red Sox not carrying two catchers, and two, the Red Sox actually going with 14 position players. That means there's one less pitcher, which right off the bat's a little scary. But you sit there and you're like, well, wait a second. There's an old adage in baseball where you can never have too much pitching, right? And that feels specifically very important during a playoff series, right? But you also have to remember it's only a 3-game set maximum. Right, your hope is that it only gets to 2 games and you're able to take the first 2 games and you're done and you're moving on. So for the Red Sox to sit there and they said, hey, well, wait a second here. We can definitely use 12 pitchers over this 3-game set and allow ourselves an extra position player to work with. And I actually think that's a really smart idea, right? I understand it's a little bit scary, but there are only so many opportunities that this pitching staff is going to get themselves into games. You want the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Some of them end up being injured, but other than that, you're taking your best guys and then you work out from there. And what this allowed you to do is instead of having David Hamilton, Nick Sogard, and Nate Eaton, a combination of those three, you can keep all three of them. And I know these guys aren't exactly like, this is going to be the difference maker in the wild card game, but having these guys actually could be, because there's one thing the Red Sox have done really well this year, and that is platoon. Right, this year, you think about it, position player-wise, I mean, the DH was a platoon for a while, still kind of is. First base, a little bit of a platoon, definitely a platoon. Second base, a platoon. Spots in the outfield are platooned, right? Red Sox have gotten to the spot that they've gotten to right now by playing as one unit, being smart with the decisions made, being smart with the players you're putting out onto the field every day, and there's no reason that should change coming into a wild card series, right? The Red Sox have to be able to manufacture runs, and that's especially important when when you're talking about the first 2 games of the series, going up against 2 of the toughest lefties you're going to face the entire postseason in Max Fried and Carlos Rodon. You need to be able to have the ability to go to a Nate Eaton later in games, or even early in games. You need to be able to have the ability to go to David Hamilton as a pinch runner later in games, because that's how you've won games, and that's how you got to the spot you're in. The Red Sox, yes, they have Bregman, yes, they have Story, yes, they have a guy like Willie Abreu, and a bunch of guys who could go yard on you at certain points, but they lost Roman Anthony. They don't have a Judge type player. They don't have a Cal type player. They don't have an Ohtani, a Schwarber, right? They don't have some of these guys that are fighting for MVPs right now. What they've been good at this entire year is when this offense is clicking, they're clicking as a unit. Singles, doubles, solo, 2-run shots, right? Building up this score in bursts. And in order to do that, you need to have this versatility. So I really like the idea of putting a guy like Nate Eaton, who's versatile on the field, who's a right-handed hitter, who's hit lefties extremely well this season, and who has a ton of speed, faster than David Hamilton. I like having Nick Sogard, who can hit from both sides of the plate, can play all 4 infield positions, and a little bit of outfield as well. And you know what? I don't hate David Hamilton being on here if his only role is to be a pinch hitter later in games because of the depth that you built up for yourself, right? So you sit there and you say, okay, it's a little bit funky, it's a little bit weird, but that's exactly how the Red Sox have operated this year, so why would they do anything different? But obviously, we also have to talk about the pitching side of things as well. Now, the pitching side of things, much like the hitting side of things, is going to be pretty standard for the most part. I mean, what were you expecting again, right? What are you going to Garrett Crochet for Cooper Criswell, right? That's just simply not going to happen. So there's a lot of guys on this roster you'd expect to be on this roster. There's also guys not on this roster that you also expected to not be on this roster. Dustin May wasn't coming back for this wild card series. We knew that. Lucas Giolito, right? I don't know if you guys have watched my video earlier today, but if you haven't, he's out with an elbow injury. That's a big impact, but we knew he was not going to be here. In my opinion, what's more interesting about this are the guys that actually are here, because I do think there could have been a little bit of snubbery going on with this one. The big thing is that all 3 of the Red Sox young debut kind of guys, they all made the playoff roster. Payton Tolle is there. That's, in my opinion, the big one. Conley Early, we knew was going to be there. And Kyle Harrison, I think we all had a pretty good feeling he was going to be there, right? They did leave off a guy like Chris Murphy, which I think is super interesting, right? They decided to go with Payton Tolle over a guy like Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy has had a whole lot more success, in my opinion, over the course of this season out of the bullpen than a guy like Payton Tolle has. I think what the Red Sox are sitting here and they're saying is, look, this is what's carried us all the way to this point, right? Just simply putting out our highest talent ceiling. How do we put the guys that we think have the best chance of putting us in a position to win onto this roster? And Payton Tolle simply has a higher ceiling than Chris Murphy. And I also think, too, part of the reason they went this way is because it's a 3-game set, right? You may not need Payton Tolle for 2 or 3 innings in this series. You may just need him for 1 1 1/3, 1 2/3, right? And I think that's where Payton Tolle has benefited a lot by going into the bullpen. Plus, on top of that, I mean, one of the best fastballs in baseball already, sitting around 100 miles an hour. That's definitely never a bad thing to have on your roster in a playoff series. I just think they simply wanted the firepower, and they're going with their guy. And again, they've gotten to this point in the year by relying on young players. I mean, Conley Early had some massive starts this year. Obviously, Marcelo, Roman, Christian Campbell, right? But even on the pitching side of things, it's been very similar. So I guess the Red Sox, they don't want to stray from their strategy. Now, there is another name that I think a couple of people are going to go, whoa, wait a second here. Why is he on your playoff roster? And that's Zach Kelly. I know a lot of people don't love Zach Kelly. Obviously, I'm like the biggest Zach Kelly fan of all time. I think I'm the only one in the East Coast who owns Zach Kelly's jersey. But the point in having Zach Kelly is simply because you don't have enough righties right now. I mean, look at this list again, right? You go through it, and Brian Bayo's a righty, but he's a starter. Then it's Chapman, lefty, Crochet, lefty, Early, lefty, Harrison, lefty. You get to Kelly, righty. You finally get a righty in the bullpen. Matt's lefty. And then it's like Slayton is a righty, and then Weisert's a righty, and then Whitlock's a righty. That's 4 righties out of the entirety of the 12 guys. 5 righties if you include Bay out of the entirety of the 12 guys, right? You simply need a right-handed arm. Zach Kelly has been much better lately. I know he let up the 2-run home run against what's-his-face Springer in that Blue Jays series, but before that, he had like a 2 ERA through the entire month of September, so he figured out a something there. I'd imagine you still need some lower leverage guys in the postseason, even though there's not a ton of low leverage spots. You know, heaven forbid you're down by 6 and you want to preserve the bullpen. bullpen for game 1 or game 2 or 3 or whatever, right? That's when Zach Kelly can be used. So kind of clear in the air on that one a little bit, but overall, I don't think there are any crazy surprises on the pitching side of things. And honestly, overall in general, I don't hate this roster, right? It does make me a little bit nervous that they're doing one less pitcher than they are position player. I think it makes sense for this series. If it was a 5 or 7 game series, I'd be sitting there going, no shot the Red Sox are doing this, right? But 3 game set, hopefully a 2 game set, right? In favor of the Red Sox would be ideal. Then it really doesn't matter how many pitchers you have on your staff. So I understand the thinking there. And to be honest with you, is this the ideal roster for the Red Sox right now? No, right? Obviously, you'd have Marcelo, you'd have Roman in there, of course. But given the circumstances that you have, especially with Giolito going down, I think this is the Red Sox best overall roster, right? A ton of versatility offensively is how you got here. So take that and make it a positive, make it a weapon in the playoffs. Alex Cora, I know a lot of you guys hate him, is regarded as one of the best playoff managers in the sport, right? So allow that guy to be a weapon for you in the postseason. I like that idea. And we'll see how it works out. We'll see how it goes. It could end up tanking the Red Sox having one more position player than pitcher. It could be the reason they make it to the next round. So we'll see how it is. But overall, given every circumstance the Red Sox have going on right now, I think this is the best you're going to get. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? What do you think of the roster? What do you think of this decision by the Red Sox? Let me know all your thoughts. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe and that like button. Helps the video out a ton. Best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, I will see you tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time, to watch the first Red Sox game, playoff game in 4 years. And as always, in the red seats.